What an honor I have tonight in introducing Dr. Jill Biden. Yes. Some of you may remember 8 years ago in 2009, Dr. Biden spoke at this event. Right after she took the stage, I was recognized as GLSEN's first Educator of the Year. It was a moment I will always cherish. You see, GLSEN became an integral part of my life in 1997, when our youngest son, Dave, at age 23, came out to my husband and myself. And honestly, quite frankly, I was a clueless mother. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know anything about the gay community, but I knew one thing: I needed to find out, to learn more, so that I could not only relate better to him, but I also was a school social worker, and I needed to find out more about the gay community from the students that I work with. Like magic, about 3 months later, lo and behold, I found Kevin Jennings. And those of you who know Kevin can know how inspiring he is. And I knew that GLSEN was a perfect fit for me. I immediately joined the newly formed Hudson Valley chapter, and I've been the co-chair there for 20 years. It's a long time. One of the most fulfilling parts of being at GLSEN and working for them was to co-found with our local chapter of PFLAG, actually. We founded an annual conference called Pride Works for LGBTQ youth and their allies. It started in 1999, and ironically, it was actually started, we called it Healing the Hurt, because that's where we were at that point. But the youth is much more proud now, so that's awesome. That first year, we had 125 people attending. And then this last year, we had 600. So it's really grown. I'm also very happy to be a part of helping to support over 60 GSAs in our chapter area, and also providing trainings and workshops, actually, for thousands of school and mental health staff over the last 20 years. I know that we are making schools safer, not just for the LGBTQ youth, but for all youth. Just ask me about it sometime. But enough about me. Let's talk about the woman with whom I'm so happy to share the stage tonight, Dr. Jill Biden. As Second Lady in the Obama-Biden administration, it was a priority for Dr. Biden to advance equality for students, especially the LGBT youth. An educator herself, Dr. Biden understood the direct connection between acceptance and positive, healthy outcome in every important area of life, including education and mental health and physical well-being. She acknowledges the challenges that face all youth, that in terms of self-esteem, but she also knows that there are extra risks for our LGBT youth. That's why she is so passionate about passing the hate crimes protection legislation. Yes, that was important. She had students in mind when the White House held its famous anti-bullying summit. And she worked with schools to create guidelines to fight back against student harassment and to support our GSAs. Today, her commitment to students continues. We're so pleased to have her back at our Respect Awards tonight. So please welcome Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Jane. Your remarks were very thoughtful. I'm thrilled to be here celebrating people who are leading the march toward LGBTQ equality and fighting for students across our country. As I was listening, I was thinking about the new kinship I have with some of you. As a parent who has lost a child, I know some of you more deeply, or at least your experience. I know that some days are tougher than others, some moments trigger unexpectedly, and how brave you are to be here tonight. My love to you. So I'm also feeling some deja vu today. I spoke at this ceremony, as you heard, 8 years ago at the beginning of our administration. It's striking to think how different the world looks today than it did back then. Just think, 8 years ago, same-sex couples could only get married in 2 states. Today, no place in our nation can deny them that basic right. Eight years ago, gay and lesbian service members couldn't openly serve in the armed forces. Today, they can serve the country they love without having to hide who they love or who they are. 8 years ago, people who were bullied or attacked on the basis of their sexual orientation or gender identity lacked protection by the federal government. Today, finally, we have a Hate Crimes Act bearing Matthew Shepard's name, and thanks to GLSEN, efforts are underway across the country to combat bullying and harassment. The rate of this progress is unprecedented. It's historic. And it happened because you stood up and spoke out. In one small case, maybe because my husband spoke just a bit too soon, though I like to say it wasn't soon enough. You helped change laws and policies, yes, but even more importantly, you helped change hearts and minds. You worked to build a more perfect nation and a more loving world. And you gave those of us in the Obama-Biden administration the inspiration, courage, and drive to keep fighting for what's right. So as we celebrate the extraordinary individual contributions of these leaders tonight, I hope we remember, too, the sum of their work, a nation that is fundamentally a better place for the next generation. I know how important that is because, like GLSEN's founders, I'm an educator. I've been teaching over 3 decades in high schools and colleges, and I continue to teach full-time at a community college. Educating young people is my life's work and my greatest passion. At school is where kids develop critical thinking and self-confidence, where they find friends and start thinking about their place in the world. It's where kids discover who they are. And when they don't feel safe, when they have to hide what makes them them, it's not just an obstacle to overcome. It can be a wrecking ball that swings through all the things that makes education meaningful. Teachers see it happen every single day in schools around our nation. The statistics tell us that the overwhelming majority of LGBTQ students feel unsafe in the classroom, and many report being physically harassed or assaulted. But numbers don't do justice to the heartbreak we see firsthand. Students who quietly wither under the anxiety, the ones who lash out in frustration, the fear, the isolation, the loneliness, the bright young scholars who think their only hope is dropping out. As an English teacher, I get a window into my students' lives through their writing. It can be upsetting to see the hate and disrespect they've had to deal with, to see the rawness of their pain. But I've seen the other side as well. I've seen my students' strength and resolve in the face of bullying. I've seen my classes come together and support one another. And I've seen the power of their courage. My students remind me to be brave for them, for myself, and for our community. You all may remember Sarah McBride as the first openly transgender woman to speak out at a national political convention. But actually, I know her well as being a family friend from back home in Delaware. She worked on my son's Beau's campaign. When I first met her and her family, she hadn't transitioned yet. Over the years, including when Sarah was an intern at the White House, I've had the chance to see her journey and watch what a difference a loving, supportive family and community can mean. Thanks to that support and thanks to her personal strength, she was able to focus on her education, her career, and her passions, rather than trying to hide who she is. And I think we've all benefited from her contributions. That is why the work GLSEN does is so close to my heart. Classrooms should be sanctuaries, places where students feel loved and accepted, where their confidence grows as they do. Growing that confidence is essential in the classroom because everything we know tells us those students will be tested outside of it. Despite our best efforts, we know that 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ, and many of whom were driven to the streets or choose to leave because of family rejection at home. We know that 1 in 3 LGBTQ youth experiences some sort of conversion therapy, and that this has had devastating effects, including depression, substance abuse, and suicide. We know that too many public spaces feel unsafe, and sometimes even explicitly off limits for transgender and gender nonconforming youth. And we know that in the United States and all around the world, LGBTQ communities still face very real violence. From the heartbreak in Orlando to the recent pogroms in Russia's Chechnya region, where at least 100 gay men were imprisoned, tortured, and some even killed at the hands of their own government. We know gay and lesbian lives are at risk around the world. These facts remind us that even as we celebrate the enormous progress of recent decades, our work is not nearly finished. That's why when Joe and I sat down to decide what work we wanted to continue now that our time in the administration is over, We knew that the challenges facing this community had to be a part of the Biden Foundation. Thank you. Thanks. We knew it was too important to set aside or hand over to someone else. We knew that when the history books are written, we want to be on the side of equality. Because our mission isn't just about access to education or bullying or safety, though those things are critical. It's about our nation and who we choose to be. It's about deciding if we are a place where everyone is equal, where love is love, where we are free to be the people we are or not. Standing in this room tonight, I know exactly who we are. I have incredible hope because of the work that you all do, because of the stories we're about to hear and the people telling them, and the fact that you are supporting this vitally important cause. Because we're all here to fight for that most fundamental of human rights, to love and be loved. In the end, through the joys and the tragedies, through all the chapters of our lives, it always comes back to our relationships, our connections, and our love. Some of you may have read Garth Greenwell's debut novel, What Belongs to You, about the loneliness and struggle of closeted desire. In it, Greenwell wrote, "Love isn't just a matter of looking at someone, but also looking with them, of facing what they face. All of us deserve people at our side, facing life with us, no matter who we are or who we love. Love is love, and that's what we're fighting for." Thank you.